March is observed as Women's Month in Belize. Consequently, the disparities between men and women are usually propelled to the fore as discussed on national platforms. In Belize, the inequalities, majority of which women face, are numerous, from access to education, income, to violence and discrimination in society.
There are many challenges, and I think one in education will always be the economic status of women, especially in rural communities. Access, especially down in Toledo, and since I am from Toledo, I can share that with very, very much compassion, that access to education is linked to transportation, phone services in the communities. So those are limitations that we need to improve for women to be able to access education. And I guess it goes all across the country in rural areas. In terms of health, there's much work that is needed there. Again, our health services have improved, but we need to have specialized services for women, and we know that that's an issue. A rising issue is cancer. Women with breast cancer, cervical cancer, and we don't have that specialized service in all our hospitals and our rural clinics. So that's another gap that I can see. And in terms of other social issues and public matters, I think that women need greater opportunities, and they will first come through education. So it is important for women to have access to education so that they can make informed choices. We have a lot of women who are interested in political leadership, but we know that their limitations as well is based on the fact that their educational status may not meet the requirement to be an effective or a well-rounded representative.
But gender inequity, particularly as it relates to women, is not unique to Belize. It is, however, a national issue that must be addressed.
One specific goal is meeting the implementation of the national gender policy, and that's the responsibility of several partners, because we're not an implementing agency. We take on the coordinating role and advocacy to ensure that partners are complying and developing programs that would improve gender issues here in Belize. Well, what the policy will do, first of all, is to ensure that government creates the opportunity for gender budgeting. If that is put in place, we know then that all the ministries will be looking at specific gender issues that needs to or requires a improved budget. For example, it might be providing like $1 million in rural health care. Is that enough? We know that the policy needs to examine that issue there and then make the recommendations and say, well, we need $3 million for rural health care. And because we have A, B, and C now as cases that need urgent attention, then that's what the policy will do for both education, health, and other sectors.
And while significant work needs to be done, programs implemented to bridge the gap in some areas have, albeit slowly, effected change.
I know that for women especially, the Women in Politics program kind of spurred off the interest in many of our candidates who have run. And successfully we have had our first female mayor in Punta Gorda, Ms. Fern Gutierrez. And I think that's a good result that will serve as an incentive for other women to become more interested. So I think we have grown. Belize is becoming more mature. And the fact that we are seeing more women in political leadership, political parties, is telling us that women are now moving up towards taking responsibility for national development. And I think that's a very important step, because we are now creating a balance within decision-making spaces.
Reporting for News 5, I'm Andrea Polanco.